Morning everyone. Welcome to my writing workshop on this World Menopause Day. I'm going to swap that over there. There you go. So, yep. Welcome to the Royal Voluntary Service Virtual Village Hall writing workshops. It'd be great if you're joining along and you've got a pen and a bit of paper next to you to scribble things down, or you can just think of the stories in your head if you don't want to write them down, type them on a tablet. But it would be great if you do have any comments to share them. I can see them today. I'm all hooked up, ready to reply to people. So morning, Diana. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining us. Do I need to? No, I'll just do it. Okay. So let's get started on World Menopause Day. I am not going to lie, I'm a little bit nervous about this topic today because it's one of those things that has in the past been a taboo subject, but we'll come to that shortly. So we're going to spend the next hour. I'm going to be talking through the topic of menopause. I'm giving you some prompts to think about, and if you want to, you can write about them or just think up some your thoughts around those prompts if you want to. It's just a bit of fun. So don't stress about it. Don't stress about your spelling or grammar or how good your writing is. It's just really free-flowing, write fast. Don't overthink it. Don't worry about structure. Just get your thoughts on the page. We're just journaling, really. So it's a journaling session to prompt you to think about this topic, and if you want to record your thoughts in some way and go back to them later if you want to, and tidy them into bits of writing you could share with people. So I'll be asking you might want to share memories or just think about what you think of this topic, and say hi in the comments. It's really lovely when people say hello and I know who's listening. And any questions that I ask you, if you've got an answer to those questions, put them in the comments and I'll share them for anybody else out there who's listening. So, World Menopause Day. I tried to find out this morning when it actually started. Didn't come across the actual date, but according to the NHS website, World Menopause Day, its aim is to break the taboo around talking about the menopause and improve women's health and well-being by raising awareness about the symptoms of menopause and the support options available to people. So that's great. So a quick warm-up, if you've got a bit of paper, and I didn't bring my timer in, but I'm going to give you, 4 minutes to write a list of everything you know about the menopause, or it can just be one thing. Tell me what you know about the menopause. I'm going to do a list. And as I say, quick, fast flow. Don't overthink it. See how many you can get on your list. Start, go. Okay. You want to 3 minutes are up, so probably nearer 5 actually. Oh, sorry, I just write 2 more. Okay, yeah, I've got a huge list. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7-ish. So if I share, I don't know if you managed to get a list of things about. I've just got something else. Managed to get a list of what you know about the menopause. The fact maybe that I've not got loads could be an indication of how little the topic has been talked about in the past. So I've got the menopause, and you'll have to excuse the clunkiness of some of the wording on this, but that's the beauty of a rough draft, a first draft. It's the time of a woman's life when her ability to reproduce draws to a close and the next stage of her life begins. Her menstruation, okay, that's a hard word to say, menstruation stops. The hormones reduce in her body. And I believe that's estrogen and testosterone, sorry. Estrogen, testosterone levels reduce in her body. Her body changes in subtle ways. And we get to the social knowledge of menopause. Historically, it has been viewed rather negatively, with ageism, sexism, the butt of jokes, both in the media and personally, has been considered the end of womanhood by some people. But it isn't, though I'm not sure that I recognise that as a young woman. From the perspective of a young woman who hadn't gone through it, I think I definitely bought into some of the misconceptions about the menopause. And some of this is because I have memories of Mum going through it. It was blamed for lots of things in her life, not necessarily fairly. So some of the things that happened will have been because of the changes in her body and the adjustments she was making and the effects that those hormonal changes had on her mental state also. But some of it wasn't. Some of it was because of circumstances in her life and other things that maybe she didn't feel that she could talk about, and people just said, oh, it's just she's going through the menopause, and discounted her. She was discounted a lot for things, and I think that is common in women in menopause. A lot of things are passed off as their menopause and not anything to do with themselves and their unhappiness or their mental health. A question one of my writers asked, why is it called menopause and not womanopause? And another friend who has taken on so the word crone is used for older women, postmenopausal women. We're old women. And so my friend has taken that on board. She's an artist and she does artwork embracing the crone, which is great. And menopause can come with sadness. I think it's an ending of something, and endings often bring a bit of grief, and it's pointless ignoring that. We are better if we acknowledge grief and work through it and on to the other side. Diana, yes, loss of libido, which isn't talked about. Yes, I agree. And freedom, yes, freedom comes with menopause in lots of ways. Particularly, the ending of periods is such a huge thing, but also lack of energy to enjoy it. Yes, again, I agree. There's a balance. I have said several times in recent weeks to people, I feel I have this level of understanding about myself and wisdom and knowledge, and I could have done so much with all that now if I got the energy I had when I was young. It's a common thing that people say. Thank you, Diana. You are correct. Thank you for that. So I hope you got a good list and that there were some positives in there as well. So I've called this my next activity. You got to laugh. You got to laugh. It's something my mum used to say. She was from the East End. I don't know where she picked it up from, but she would often laugh about some difficulty in life and say, you got to laugh though, haven't you? So yeah, remembering my listing, remembering my mother's generation when it was barely talked about. I can't remember my grandmother talking about it at all. She may have gone through it quite young, but I don't know. But I remember my mum going through it. So my mum went through it in her mid-40s, and actually her menopause was paused and she had a late child. So I remember specifically that and the difficulties of her then going back into menopause and having a young child to look after as well. Hence, people discounting some of the hissy fits and tiredness and crotchetiness and menopause. Some of it will have been situational. Ageism, sexism. Television sitcoms come to mind. I'm thinking of on the buses is running through my head, though I don't know if they ever made jokes about Olive. She was the butt of jokes, was she not, all the time, very unfairly. But that kind of sitcom where the wife was always the butt of jokes for her behaviour. My memory of the 70s and menopause and its attitudes towards it is kind of, embedded in television sitcoms. And jokes, husband jokes. I have been the butt of husband jokes around menopause. What struck me when I was asked to do this workshop is that I can't remember much about my own menopause. And so that was one of the reasons I've been a bit panicky about this. But I found some writing this morning, actually, that I did. I realised I was going through it in 2009-ish, and I hadn't realised that I was for quite a lot of that time. But other things were going on at the same time as well. So I was diagnosed as a celiac at the same time, so that may have had an impact. But yeah, I think I may have had a much easier journey than some people through that. So I'm looking to the extent that I can't remember. I definitely didn't have hot flushes and things. But and the menopause experience varies between women and even across populations and individuals worldwide. So people in the richer nations tend to navigate menopause and have a better experience than some people in the countries where there are less affluent, less money to buy products that would help and to have hormone replacement and things like that. But so this is a sweeping bit of a generalization, but information that I found was saying that that historically women went through the menopause a lot earlier, and it had a much bigger impact on their life expectancy than happens now, certainly in the richer countries of the world. And although it can definitely be a challenge with pain and embarrassment and embarrassment of wanting to talk about it and not wanting to talk about it, and women not accessing support from each other because they're not talking about it. But there are also a lot of positives about going the menopause and coming through the other side, a life beyond it. Women largely are living longer now, having an extra third of their life after menopause, which is historically wasn't the case. So there is a need for us to embrace this new stage of our life and accept it and find the positives in it, and there are lots, and to create a new story, to rewrite the story of menopause, basically. I've, as part of my this, I have asked friends for their experiences and their thoughts on it. And one of my friends said, we need better stories. So there aren't enough stories about menopause, and we need better stories, because the more stories there are out there, the more we help each other to navigate the challenges of menopause. So that's partly what we're doing today. We're thinking, what are our stories of menopause? It's a natural part of life. There are facts in it, but what are our stories? So, yes, more women are experiencing it now than at any time in history. I said that to you. A typical median age of final menstrual period ranges between 45 years to 55. I do know women who that was younger for them. But yeah, that was according to the World Data Bank Organization. So yeah, women in countries with low resources often have a different experience. So my menopause story, I had to really dig deep to remember it. But again, that was because there was so much going on in my life at that time. I think that might be common, thinking about my mum's story also. It was a period of her life when so much was going on. Is that common? Is that a common thing? Is that something that resonates with you? Did it happen at a time children are getting to a certain age? Certainly I was going through the menopause at a point when young people in my life were going into womanhood, and that can bring challenges. What is your menopause story? There will be so many different menopause stories. The next writing activity is for you to think about what is your story, and for you to make some notes about it. Jot that down. And I'm going to say probably, let's give this a 10-minute slot. See how it goes. 7 to 10 minutes on this one. What is your menopause story? Can you remember it? How you felt? What were your emotions as you were going through it? What were the physical aspects of it for you? Did you have all the classics that are listed? Hot flushes, loss of libido, lack of energy, lack of sleep, fluctuating emotions. Okay, so 10 minutes, I'm going to stop talking. 7 to 10 minutes. What is your menopause story? And if you want a sentence starter, you could begin with, I remember, I remember. And if you get stuck, just go back to that starter. I remember. Just one more minute, maybe. Sorry, I'm nearly done. Okay, so have you managed to jot anything down? Did you get anything about your menopause experiences? I did. It's not an easy topic to write about, is it? But there you go. And as I'm writing it, I'm writing words that I'm wondering whether it's, okay to share in public. But yeah, if we don't change what's acceptable for people to say. We don't change the word's gone. See, word's gone. Could be postmenopausal thing. The practices around the way society talks about menopause, and I certainly don't want my daughter to live in a world where she doesn't feel that she can talk about her experiences, particularly physical experiences that she needs to share and get input from the rest of the group about. My biggest help has been with friends, the support of friends and chipping in comments and suggestions and advice, even to, this last week when I've asked friends about what's your experiences, what would you tell somebody? But anyway, here's my bit, rough as it is. I remember very little until this morning when I suddenly remembered the incident at work one Friday morning and remembered that I'd written about it at that time. It's interesting to see that I noted that I was hormonal in it, but didn't then recognise that I was menopausal. Interesting also because I distinctly remember being told by a doctor at some point, post blood test, after I'd had a blood test, vitamins and anemia, that I was perimenopausal, which is the early stages of the menopause, and yet it didn't seem to register. Then what that meant. I wonder why. I wonder whether I was blocking acknowledgement of my aging, reluctant to embrace the loss of youth. I remember very little physically, very little of the physical symptoms or experiencing the physical symptoms. My periods slowed down to some extent. The length of time they lasted shortened. I remember it purely as being a blessing. But I was busy at work, possibly the height of my school teaching arc. I was very busy doing well. My focus seems to be, in my memory at least, to have been just on getting through life, coping with work and the busyness, coping with the loss of a parent, children experiencing the ups and downs, the emotional roller coasters of going through adolescence, so becoming adults themselves, a marriage that was beginning to unravel a little. I was always tired and periodically visited the doctor to ask them, a variety of thems, to investigate why that would be. Was I vitamin deficient? Was I anemic? I can't recall anyone ever actually mentioning the word menopause, though perhaps, as I've said above, they did. Eventually, I was, so that would be about, 2010, I was eventually diagnosed with celiac disease, and I then and since have discounted all those things that I had been experiencing to that. And seriously, it was only just this week, I'm thinking about it, that it struck me that it might not have been celiac disease that caused that. It might have been physical symptoms of the menopause. Again, as I say, I've been very lucky. I have had sleep problems periodically, but not, I think, to do with menopause. Other things. Or maybe they all merge together. We're all part of the same package of being a woman, of my age. A woman, late 50s, early 60s, as I am now. Interesting writing it. Right, I'm going to just, because I found this thing, and I say, my mum used to say, you got to laugh. I did at the point of putting this together this morning. I literally woke up this morning and thought, no, but you wrote about something. Maybe that was menopause. I'm going to read it to you. It's a 500-word piece that I wrote in a blog post. I just started my writer's journey then, teaching in the day and doing writing study at the time. And we've been encouraged to start a blog, and this is something I wrote under a pretend name. Just when you think you've got your head sorted out after many years of trying, you find yourself walking into a crowded staff room and hurling your lunch across it, injuring someone on the arm in the process. Follow that with a frantic, screaming chicken dance as you try to dash out of the room past people equally determined to confine you in it, and altogether, post-incident embarrassment levels are pretty high. Not a good start to the day. Thank goodness for Trina and her school office level-headedness. She placed firm hands on my shoulders, pirouetted me round, and off we do-si-doed to the head's office. Not for a reprimand, you understand, but as the only unoccupied room with a shuttable door. I knew, as I leaked mascara onto Trina's cream-coloured shoulder, that I wasn't sure what I was crying about, and that I was making a terribly loud noise, and that I hadn't any more self-control than the little ones who she usually gives comfort and sticking plasters to. Only today, sticking plasters weren't going to help. And it was such a minor thing that triggered it off. A pre-booked but now unavailable to me teaching space in what was proving to be a very stressful day. The straw that broke the camel's back, Trina soothed, gently patting my own back. And probably hormones, I mumbled into her jumper. Don't forget the hormones. Then chuckled snottily to think that the imminent end of womanhood should provoke a better tantrum so akin to a young child's. After a short while, I crawled back into the almost empty staff room to find someone had gathered up my mangled lunch and placed it carefully in the fridge. Colin, the caretaker, was surprisingly philosophical and, unusually, passed up the chance to poke fun. It gets you like that sometimes, don't it? He nodded. Good job you weren't having something tin, though, eh? You gotta laugh, as my mum liked to say. Laughter, the best medicine and all that. Within half an hour, I was fielding jokes about designated hard hat areas and was faintly amused to note that my husband, who knew nothing about the incident, had sent me a PMT joke in a text, which had come through 3 times. Don't worry about the bruise, my colleague told me. I'm not bothering to put it in the accident book. I gave her a tangerine and a bunch of roses as thanks. I went straight out after work and bought 2 packs of multivitamins and the largest tub of primrose oil capsules that Sainsbury's had to offer, and 2 bottles of Piador Red, full of iron it is, apparently. There you go. Yes, so even just reading that now, I can see I actually say it's the end of womanhood, so I did it. I did perhaps have some knowledge that it was menopausal. But that's the interesting thing. 15 years on, I've forgotten all the symptoms, and maybe that's the thing to hold on to if you're going through the menopause and it's a challenge for you. This too will pass. This too will pass. And life beyond it is good. So, on that vein, I remember as a young woman, I went with a friend to a woman's group. It was actually a cooking evening, but it was a community of women who used to get together to support each other. It wasn't the WY, but it was a similar thing. I can't remember what it was called now. It was a network of things. We went to a lady, posh lady's very big house. The lady had got a big enough house to fit lots of people in. And so I would be late 20s, possibly mid-20s, mid to late 20s. And we had a big circle of women sitting in this lovely living room, and we had to introduce who we were. And we got to a lady who was probably the age I am now, but I thought at that time, so as I say, early 60s, or maybe 70, but I thought from my 26, 27-year-old perspective that she was quite old. And so we all introduced who we were, and we got to this woman, and she said what her name was. Hello, my name's Helen, and I just want to tell you that my life has been completely reborn since my period stopped. And then we all looked at her, oh. And she just got the chutzpah to say that. She'd got the bottle to say that to a crowd of women she didn't know. And I remember it being a maze. And I've told that story loads over the years to people. Amazing. Who could imagine that was coming, that life would be wonderful afterwards. And yeah, that is one of the benefits, period stop. You don't have all that messy stuff to deal with. There's a freedom in it. So if I go down the list of things that people told me. So there were a couple of negatives. So a friend, it's not a negative, it's knowledge. Let's look at it as knowledge. It goes on for much longer than I expected it to, said one friend. But, the inverse of that is I can't remember mine. So if it does, you either forget, or mine, some people don't have it long at all. And we're not told enough about it, which I think is true. That's definitely been my case. I remember being given a 6-page printout that I was to go home and read, and never did because I'm of a busy lifestyle and things. So there's definitely room for better information. Several people have said that. There's definitely room for better information, including from medical practitioners. And it can be difficult as an older woman seeking advice from a doctor who is clearly a lot younger, has limited information, and hasn't experienced it. But not all, that isn't everybody's experience of it. So there are lots of knowledgeable doctors now, particularly. It's getting better and better. I'm hearing that from friends. It's getting better. People know more about it. People are talking about it more, and there's more information. It's talked about more in the media, and there's more information online. So lots of positivity. A lady, one of my writers who is in her 70s, said, I've acquired directness. I don't suffer fools in the way that I used to. And some of that is aging, as you know, not just menopause. I've gained confidence, several people have said. The lack of physical bleeding every month is a freedom. 2 different friends have said, I am warmer now. So we talk about hot flushes. People have hot flushes. Our bodies tend, the change in hormones can make our bodies resting temperature higher than it used to be. So a friend has said, I'm warmer now. I always used to be cold. And then she's given some advice. I found not eating sweet things at night and in the late afternoon considerably reduced my night sweats. My migraines have reduced in frequency and severity as a result. So that's good. So then there are things you can do to find ways to manage your menopausal symptoms. And I say good advice online. Another friend who is a doctor said, from a positive perspective, I felt better after the menopause than for decades before. Better mood, no migraines, no heavy periods, less frequent anemia, livelier. We only seem to hear negative aspects, not positive. Same friend said, I had warm enough flushes, which were great as I'm usually too cold. And as a doctor, she said, be aware of bone density as it declines over menopause, which can contribute to osteoporotic fractures. Make sure to have enough calcium and vitamin D and stay active. And she said, see the Royal Osteoporosis, it's a hard word to say, Osteoporosis Society website for information. And yeah, I have friends who have had hormone replacement therapy. I know that's there's a lot of discussion about that at the moment, about how appropriate that is. But I know I have friends who that has worked well for. So consult your doctor if it's something you have questions about. Okay, so there are lots of positives. And as I say, women now are spending a third, 30 to 40% of their life postmenopausal, which in times past wasn't the case. It's going through the menopause isn't the end of our life, and it's an adjustment, and we have to, and I think continually have to, revisit coming to terms with the loss of our younger self. There was definitely for me a sadness in knowing that my reproductive years had finished, even though I didn't want more children. But there is the stigma of not being useful anymore when you can't produce, and that is not the case. I am constantly being told by people, "You're so wise. Thank you for that advice." I'm like my artist friend who is embracing the crone in her art. I do feel like I'm embracing the wisdom of old age, but whilst acknowledging that there is some sadness, that I won't have the libido and the energy that I used to have. And it was certainly all these creative ideas that I have now, and I feel much more confident in doing them. I don't have the energy to action them as I would have done if I'd had that confidence in my 20s, for instance. So I'd have been a self-published millionaire by now if I'd have had that confidence earlier and believed in myself and my voice. But now, as an older woman, I have a much stronger understanding of my voice, which I hope that is some of those ideas resonate with you. So, but there is also sadness, and I think there is a place for saying how much goodbye to those things. So what I'm going to ask you to do, what I'm going to do is write a letter. I would like to thank my body for having got me through to here, and there have been some difficulties, and some of those have been bone related. I fell and broke my shoulder in April, and that again reminded me my body has changed and I'm not young anymore. But my body mended, and it did mend, and I'm thankful that it did that. I'm thankful for this stage of life that I'm at as the wise woman. And I'm going to spend the 6 or 7 minutes just writing around that. A thank you to my body A letter to my body. So I would invite you to write a letter to your body, acknowledging all the incredible things it's done throughout your life and that it's brought you to the place that you're at. How, if you are going through the menopause, acknowledge how your body is reacting to that and give it some kindness for the challenge that it's facing. You could write a letter to your future self. A vision of the confident woman you're going to become beyond the menopause, what your life will be as that woman who has gone through it and learned the lessons that going through it will have taught you. Or you could write a letter of thanks to people in your life who are supportive of you. If you have a friendship group or a partner who's particularly supportive. Anyway, 6 minutes. Go. Nearly just one last sentence and then we'll share. I'll share. Anyone's got any comments they want to put in the comments, please do. Okay, I'll read the last word. It's not really, it's come out as a letter, but here you go. It is what it is. I don't deny that there is grief in recognizing now that the younger version of myself has gone, and that the physical changes that occurred during the menopause really have created a new version of me, with the loss of some aspects of me that I can tell now and miss. I really, for the first time, feel those things. I don't think I'd recognised them before. They were creeping up on me. Breaking my shoulder really made me understand what a different body I have. There is regret that I didn't know how lucky I was to have those things when I was younger. To have energy, a sharp memory, the speed to carry out the things I needed or wanted to do. But feeling regret for those things needs to be a time-limited exercise if I'm not to waste the time that I do have. And I know now that the things that I have lost have been swapped out with other things that I didn't have then. Confidence, resilience, a sense of my value to myself, my family, friends, and the wider community. An understanding of my voice and a greater willingness to use it. I have traded these things for acceptance. Sorry, I've traded regret for acceptance. And it's a trade I accept with grace. There you go. There are some words there I'm not wildly happy about because they're negative. Gone. I don't know. I'm sure I can work it into something. I hope you found today useful. I hope you got some useful thoughts out of it, and that if you are somebody who likes sharing your writing, that you're able to tidy those up and share them. Feel free to come back to the comments and paste in anything later. This will be on Facebook. Paste in anything you've written for us to read later. That would be great. And have a great day. And I will hopefully see you soon. Take care. Bye.